Our journey began at a small hostel where we all gathered to finalize the plan for our trip to the Kalash Valley. After the last bit of discussion, our car pulled up and we were finally on the road. Chacha, a man with a great mood who made the whole trip feel light and easy. Traveling with him was a joy. He was such a jolly person that the long drive never felt tiring. Not long after we left, we had to stop briefly to fill air in a tire, but that small delay only added to the excitement of what was ahead. In Pakistan, there are 220 million people. This is the story of 3,000 of them. There are places on this earth that do not want to be found, places that hide themselves behind weather and altitude and roads that have no right to exist, places that ask something of you, your courage, your patience, your willingness to let go of every comfort you brought with you before they reveal themselves. The Kalash Valley is one of those places, and what it reveals to those who make it through is something that should not exist, something that by every measure of history and geography and politics and time should have vanished long ago. I have been traveling for a long time. I have stood in places that moved me, ancient places, broken places, beautiful places, but I have never, not once, stood somewhere that felt like that. Like I had walked through a door in the side of a mountain and come out somewhere else entirely, somewhere older, somewhere realer, somewhere that the modern world simply forgot to reach. This is the story of a Kalash Valley. And I want you to understand something before we go any further. What you're about to see is not history. It is not the past. It is not a reconstruction or a reenactment or a cultural exhibition. What you're about to see is happening right now in the mountains of northwest Pakistan. A people are living, breathing, laughing, grieving, dancing, arguing, loving people is still here, is still themselves against everything. The Kalash, an indigenous people of the Hindu Kush mountains, practitioners of one of the oldest living religions on the face of the earth, speakers of a language so ancient and so singular that linguistics still argue about where it came from. Farmers, herders, winemakers, dancers, storytellers, and survivors. There are approximately 3,000 Kalash people alive today. 3,000 in a country of 220 million, the smallest ethno-religious minority in Pakistan, surrounded on every side by one of the world's great faiths, holding on by memory, by music, by the sheer bloody-minded refusal of a people who have decided that they will not become something they are not. I want you to tell you about the first Kalash woman I met. She invited me into her house. She didn't know me. She had no reason to trust me, but she poured me tea, walnut tea, thick and earthly, and unlike anything I had ever tasted. And she sat across from me, and she looked at me with these extraordinary pale eyes. She said, through my translator, that we are afraid the world will forget us. I have been thinking about that sentence ever since, because here is the thing. The world isn't forgetting the Kalash because it knew them and lost them. The world is forgetting the Kalash because it never truly knew them to begin with. And that is what this film is all about. A chance to know them before it's too late. before the music stops, before the last kupas is made and worn by the last woman who knows what every shell and every bit and every feather means. Their name simply in their own language means us, the Kalash, us, people, human beings living in these mountains, in these valleys, in this way, because this is who they are, this is who they have always been. We have finally reached Ayon, a village often called one of the most beautiful places in all of Chitral. This is where our journey to the Kalash Valley officially begins. But there is another story here too. As you can see, climate change is taking a toll. Several houses and stretches of land have already been swept away, and others are still tottering on the verge of sinking into the river. The roads were still under construction. We planned to reach Ayon Bazaar and stock up on everything we need. Food, supplies, and the extra things for the trip. Ayon is also the main hub. From here, all transport to the Kalash Valley begins. Every car, every jeep to the other three valleys originated from Ayon. There was one more important thing we had to fix: the jeep's audio system. We couldn't play any music on the drive, so we planned to sort it out in Ayon Bazaar. We will get the speakers and the plays checked so that we can actually enjoy the music on the road to the Kalash Valley. The people of Chitral are among the most hospitable in the entire country. They deeply value travelers, guests and foreigners. On our road to the Kalash Valley, we met with our Chacha's nephew. He warmly invited us to stop, sit with them and have some food. But we had to decline because we were running late and needed to reach the Kalash Valley. We thought to buy all our travel supplies in Ayon. But Jamil, one of my students and a local from the Kalash Valley, told us not to worry. Everything we need is available right in the Kalash Valley Bazaar, or Bumburet Bazaar as it is commonly called. The shops there have all the essentials we will need for the trip. We were traveling in July, so the heat was intense. The temperature was around 33 degrees to 35 degrees. On our way, we saw a lot of children swimming in the bank, cooling off and getting themselves fresh.
We reached Ayon Bazaar and had to get the audio system fixed. But another thought came to my mind first. It would be better to fill the gas cylinder here because it's cheaper in Ayon than it is in Bomburet. So we made a quick stop and got it refilled before heading on. On our way out, we ran into our first trouble. A car was stuck on the road. In these mountainous areas, jeeps and 4x4s handle the terrain much better. The travelers we met were driving hybrid cars and that made the climb much harder for them. After we helped them get unstuck, we continued our journey toward the Kalash Valley. Chitral itself is a fascinating place. Predominantly Muslim, deeply traditional, yet remarkably welcoming to travelers. But today, it is only a waypoint. Our destination is further, much further into the mountains. For centuries, this entire region was known as Kafiristan, meaning land of the unbelievers, was home to dozens of pagan tribes. But in 1895, the Afghan Amir Abdul Rahman swept through neighboring Nuristan and forcibly converted his people to Islam. Those who could flee fled east into Chitral, into these valleys, and something extraordinary happened. They survived. The Kalash did not disappear, they did not convert, they did not yield, and today, against all probability, they are still here, still dancing, still sacrificing, still singing in a language that belongs to no other people on earth. Bomburet, or Mumret as the Kalash call it, is the largest and most visited of the three valleys. It is the first impression most outsiders have of the Kalash word, and what an impression it is. The moment you step out of the vehicle, you understand that you have crossed some kind of invisible border, not a political one, but a cultural one. The air smells of pine and wood smoke, the sounds are different, the river, the wind, and somewhere music. Always, it seems, music. The valley is breathtakingly fertile. Oak forest cascade down the mountain slopes, walnut and mulberry trees line every path. Apricot, apple, grape, the Kalash are farmers and herders. Their relationship with this land is not just economic, but it is spiritual. Perhaps the most immediately striking thing about the Kalash is the extraordinary dress of their women. Unlike the modest, often concealed dress of women in surrounding Muslim communities, Kalash women wear colors. Deep black embroidered with crowery shells and beads, topped with the kupas, a crown of feathers, buttons, shells, and bright fabric that can weigh several kilograms. Kalash women are, by the standards of this region, strikingly free. They move open in public with men, they choose their own husbands, they speak, they sing, they dance. In a region where women's public lives are often severely restricted, Kalash women hold remarkable power. They are the keeper of the culture. Without the woman, there is no Kalash. We will continue our documentary on the Kalash people, but right now we have run into a serious problem. The jeep broke down, there is something wrong with the gas and it won't move forward. So Chacha and I are heading back to Ayon Valley. I'll get a new car from the Ada there, and Chacha will call some of his sons to come back and look at the car and get it repaired. We have asked the students to stay here for now. We have to go back because there is no signal here, and so we can't contact anyone. Once we are back, we will continue with the history and everything else about the Kalash people. After reaching Ion Valley, Chacha called his son and I went back too, carrying some cables for the power bank. We came back with a new driver and now we are heading back to the site. The jeep was done, it wouldn't move anymore. So we unloaded everything, our equipments, supplies, bags and all our extra gear from the broken jeep into the new one. Once it was all shifted, we were ready to continue the journey. The Kalash practice a religion that has no name in any official religious taxonomy. Scholars call it animism, a worship of nature, ancestors, and a pantheon of gods that inhabits the mountains, rivers, and forests. But for the Kalash, it needs no label. It is simply the way things are. Animal sacrifice is at the heart of Kalash religious life. Goats, the most prized animals in Kalash culture, are offered to the gods at key festivals, at births, at deaths. It is not violence, it is conversation between the living and the divine. There is something profoundly humbling about witnessing this. In the world where our food arrives in plastic, where the connection between life and death has been entirely severed, to watch a community that still understands viscerally that everything lives and everything dies, and that death is part of the deal, it recalibrates something in you. The Kalash year is structured around three great festivals, each one a statement of identity as much as a religious event. Joshi, the spring festival in May, celebrates the first milk of the season. Women wear new clothes, flowers are woven into headdresses, and the whole valley seems to exhale after the long mountain winter. It is a festival of renewal. Uchal in August marks the end of summer pasturing. The men and boys who have spent months in the high mountain pastures come home, bringing fresh cheeses offering to the gods. It is a festival of return. Chaumas in December is the most sacred. The winter solstice festival, fires burn, the boundary between the human world and the divine is set to thin. Ancient purification rituals are performed. It is a festival of light against the dark. And in these mountains, in December, the dark is very dark indeed. At the turn of 20th century, there may have been 100,000 Kalash. Today, there are approximately 3,000. The decline is not primarily due to violence, it is due to centuries of quiet attrition, conversion, intermarriage, modernization, the slow erosion of a word. In Bumburet, there are a lot of hotels. The reason is simple. Tourists come here every day, in every season, especially during the festival months. The visitors arrive from all over Pakistan and from abroad. We are making our first stop now at a hotel where we will stay. After some rest and lunch, we will continue our journey onward. One of the most persistent questions about the Kalash concerns their origin. Who are these fair-skinned, often light-eyed people doing in the Hindu Kush mountains of Pakistan? The most romantic theory beloved by travelers is that they are descendants of Alexander the Great soldier left behind in these valleys after his legendary campaign through the Hindu Kush in the 4th century BC. Alexander did campaign through this exact region. His soldiers did settle, and the Kalash do bear a remarkable physical resemblance to Mediterranean Europeans. The Bumburet Museum is the main cultural museum in the Kalash Valley, located in Bumburet. It was created to preserve the history, traditions and daily life of the Kalash people. Inside, most of the displays focus on clothing and handmade objects. The most famous item is the woman's traditional dress. This includes the long black robe called a susut and the heavy headdress is called a shusut. The shusut is covered in cowrie shells, silver coins and colorful beads, and it shows a woman's age and marital status. Women also wear layered bead necklaces, silver earrings and woven belts. Men's clothing is simpler, usually a black wool shalwar kameez and a plain cape. The museum also holds objects from everyday Kalash life. There are hand-carved wooden balls and utensils, old weaving looms, spinning tools, and farming equipments like sickles and grain baskets. In the ritual section, you can see small wooden effigies used in ancestral worship, ceremonial milk cups, and hand drums used during festivals. Old photographs and its historical tools show how the community lived before modern roads arrived. Together, these clothes and objects show how the Kalash people keep their identity alive through what they wear, make, and use every day. We are traveling now towards the place where the Kalash celebrate their festivals. This is where they dance to music, celebrate together, laugh and enjoy. Many beautiful stories are connected to these festivals. The Kalash Valley is built around three major festivals, and each one marks a different season of life here. The first is Chilim Just, held from May 13 to May 16th. It is a 3-day celebration of the start of spring, a welcome to new life, new crops, and longer days in the mountains. The second one is Chaumas, as the Kalash call it. It comes in August after the harvest. Once the crops and weeds are cut, the community gathers to give thanks and celebrate abundance. The third is also called Chaumas, but this one is in December. It is focused on children, new clothes, gifts and time together as families. During these winter Chaumas, the men also go to the sacred worship places to pray. Women do not enter those spaces. After the prayer, everyone returns home to continue the celebration. Three festivals, spring, harvest, and winter, they shape the entire rhythm of the Kalash year. The Kalasha language is spoken by fewer than 5,000 people and is classified as critically endangered by UNESCO. For generations, it existed only as a spoken tongue. But in the year 2000, Kalash linguistics created a written script for the language for the first time in history. After visiting the festival grounds, we headed toward our camping place for the night. On the way, we saw Kalash children playing. We stopped to spend some time with them. At first, they were shy and didn't want to be on camera. But after talking with them about their names, school, favorite food, colors, sports, and jewelry, they relaxed. The Kalash kids speak local Khwar fluently, the mother tongue of Chitral. I can't speak Kalash, but we had still a lot of fun. We tried on their clothes and necklaces together. Once they felt comfortable, they were happy to be in videos and photos. It was a really wonderful time. After a long, tiring summer day and a lot of walking, we visited many places and had a lot of fun with the children. By evening, we reached our camping site where we will stay for the night. We decided not to take a hotel room in July. It gets hot inside, so we chose to stay outside in a cabin instead. It is much more comfortable and a lot of fun. The weather is good, the place is good. After dinner, we sat down for a long discussion. We talked about the past, about events, history, and places. The students took turns sharing their thoughts. They spoke about their homes, their religion, their culture, and their traditions. They talked about everything they do and experience. It was a deep, honest conversation under the Bumbure at night. After a wonderful night's sleep, we woke up, we washed up, got ourselves ready, and headed out to buy eggs, tomatoes, and a few other things for breakfast. There are no headstones here, no names carved into rocks, no dates marking a beginning and an end. Walk into a Kalash graveyard and you will find something the rest of the world has almost forgotten how to do. A community that buries its dead in the open and lets the world see. For centuries, the Kalash did not bury their dead beneath the earth. Their deceased were placed in wooden boxes, coffins carved with geometric patterns, and the symbols of a life once lived and left above ground, uncovered, open to sun and snow alike. Skeletons and bones, softened by decades of weather, become part of the landscape itself, not hidden, not feared, simply accepted the way the Kalash accept the most things about the passage from one life to the next. Beside some grave, a stained gandao, effigies carved in the likeliness of the dead, especially those of standing and wealth within the community. Once, these wooden guardians were raised with elaborated feast called shroga, ceremonies of merit that marked a person's worth in life by the grandeur of the memorial in death. Today, the tradition is fading. Fewer hands know how to carve them, fewer families can afford the feast that was accompanied their rising. When a Kalash dies, the valley does not go quiet, it gets louder. For 2 to 3 days, the body rests in a communal hall, the Jashta Khan. While the community gathers around it, there is no fasting, no black clothing, no hush. There is music, there is dance, drums called the dole keep rhythm through the night as people perform the pele, moving in circles around the deceased. Family members may sacrifice dozens of gods to feed everyone who comes, and everyone is welcome. Because in Kalash belief, this is not a funeral, it is a send-off, a celebration of a soul freed from the weight of the body, beginning its journey toward the ancestors. The dead are not sent away empty-handed. Personal belongings, an axe, a knife, sometimes food and coins are placed with them, offerings for whatever comes next. Nothing is taken back to the house afterward. To reclaim it, the Kalash belief is to invite the spirits home uninvited. One symbol above all marks a Kalash grave apart from any other in the region, the charpai. The rope bed on which the person is left in life, flipped upside down and left atop the burial site, in a quiet signature, a way even now of saying a Kalash rests here, and their journey continues elsewhere. In recent decades, more families have begun burying their dead beneath the ground, a shift shaped by growing contact with neighboring Muslim communities and by practicality as much as belief. The open coffins that once defined these graveyards are becoming rarer with each passing year. But for now, if you are quietly enough through Bombaret or Rumbur or Berir, you can still find them, boxes of pale wood, worn smooth by rain, holding what remains of lives, lived entirely on their own terms, unmarked, unafraid, and in their own way is still celebrated. After the graveyards, we are now moving toward the last part of the Bumburet Valley. It is called Shekhande. Almost all of the population there is Muslim. One local theory says that in the past the Kalash brought Shekhan people here. Most of them were shepherd hired to look after the Kalash domestic animals. Over time, more of their families came. Their numbers grew. Eventually, they were given their own section of the valley. That's how Shekhande became part of the Bumburet Valley. In the Kalash Valley, we call this place Ghari in our local language. Ghari is the livestock resting area. It is not where animals graze. After the cows, goats, and sheep spend the day feeding on the mountain slopes, shepherds bring them down to Ghari. It is usually a walled or shaded enclosure close to the village but set apart from homes. There is a space to lie down, sheltering from sun or wind and water nearby. The ground is baked earth, worn smooth by years of hooves. In the evening, you will hear bells, you will see dust rising as the herd come in. For a while, the whole valley is just animals settling, chewing and resting before night. That's Ghari, a quite necessary part of life here. One of the most extraordinary things I have observed about the Ghari is that it is entirely built with wood. The walls, the roofs, even the foundations are all wood. But the most remarkable part is this, that there are no nails. No nails, no screws, no modern metal fasteners at all. The wood itself is shaped and joined so precisely that the pieces lock together and hold on their own. It is an old ingenious technique. Our local guide Jamil told me these Ghari are built to last. Even during earthquakes, heavy storms, or harsh winters, they don't collapse. The joinery is very strong, no nails, just skill, wood, and balance. Years ago, an Englishman lived right here. He came to the Kalash Valley not as a tourist but to learn. He spent his time promoting Kalash culture, writing about their history, their tradition, and their way of life. He even wrote a book. For many, he became a voice for the Kalash people to the outside world. This is the house where he used to stay. But one night, after a local dance and a gathering, he returned here. And that night, he was killed. Taliban fighters came to his home and shot him. He was someone who celebrated Kalash life, he documented it, he defended it, and a lot of what we know about their history today is connected to the word he left behind. Tourism is a big part of life here in Bumburet Valley. You will find a lot of hotels in Bumburet and also in Shekhande. The reason is simple. A lot of tourists come here. On a busy day, you can see more than 50 vehicles arrive. There's 50 jeeps, 50 cars, and away like hundreds and thousands of travelers. They come from all Pakistan, from Punjab, from Peshawar, from Dir, from Karachi, from Islamabad, and from many other places too. They all come for the same reason: to see this valley, to experience Kalash culture, and to be in the mountains. While I was in the Shekhande, I sat down with an owner of a hotel. We talked for a while. He spoke about the hotels here, about tourism and what it means for the valley. But more than that, he spoke about responsibility. He said we need to promote the well-being of this place, keep it clean, keep it safe, protect it for the people who live here and for the travelers who come to visit. It was a great conversation. I reminded that tourism here isn't just about seeing the valley, it is about looking after it too. Now we are moving toward the last part of Shekhande. That's where we will be staying. First we will get ourselves refreshed and settled in. Then once we are ready, we will head back out. This is the place we decided to stay. Water running nearby, greenery all around, grass underfoot, open air, mountains in the distance, and trees everywhere. It was beautiful. But the one thing I loved most were the trees. Two of them standing side by side. They were massive. I would say about like 500 feet tall. Standing next to them, I felt tiny, although I am 6'2". They have been here for generations, watching over these valley. On our way back from Shakhande, we decided to stop at a fish farm. It was full of trouts, babies and big ones too, and they were all moving. Some of the trout were for sale. The rate they told us was 3,500 per kilo. While we were there, one of the workers was catching fresh trout for tourists right in front of us. Nothing splash out. It was a great stop, simple, hands-on, and very Kalash really.
Now we are at a local shop in the valley. This is where you will find the Kalash clothes, the jewelry, and everything else the community is known for. The women's traditional headwear, embroidered with capes and coins, their handmade dresses, and for the men, the wool jackets they wear especially in the colder months. It is all right here. Craft, culture, and color in one shop. Now we are heading to two of the most important places in Bumburet. First, the oldest house in the entire valley, generations of Kalash history under one roof. And second, we are going to meet the woman known as the elder of the whole Kalash community. She carries the stories, the traditions, and the memory of these valley. This is one of the oldest women in all of Bumburet, or you can say in all of Kalash Valley. People here say that she's about 106 years old, or maybe even older. Age has taken a toll. Her hands ache, her shoulder ache, her legs don't work the way they used to. But her spirit is still strong.
She still talks, she still smiles, she still welcomes visitors with stories, with laughter, with warmth. Sitting with her was an honor, a conversation I won't forget for the rest of my life. Right now, we are inside one of the oldest houses in the entire Kalash valley. It is over 600 years old. The roof, the walls, the floor, everything here is wood. According to the old men we sat with, it is still strong. It has been a family house for generations. 600 years later, and it is still standing, still lifting. The wood has darkened over time, but there just for centuries of fire smoke inside. His wife and sisters live here too. His sons and daughters were out working when we visited. It is not a museum, it is a house. 600 years of Kalash life under one wooden roof.
This place is called Bashaleni. In Kalash tradition, it is a separate house used during childbirth and menstruation. For 7 days, women would rest here. During their time, they don't cook and they don't touch food or the home. The reason is cultural and ritual. In the old Kalash belief, this period is seen as a time of being set apart or unclean. So Bashaleni becomes a space of separation and rest. It is still here in the valley today, a quiet wooden house that holds a very specific role in Kalash life and tradition. After a day of beautiful places, beautiful people, and a culture that stays with you, now we are heading back. First, a rest somewhere quiet to pause and take it all in, and then we will continue our journey toward Chitral, the valley behind us and the road ahead.
Our last stop in Bumburet Valley is a park. It is a place to rest, but it is also one of the most beautiful spots in the valley. So we decided to stay here for a while, just sit, breathe, and take it in. After a short rest, we will call our car and then we continue our journey towards Chitral. One more pass in the mountains before the road calls us again. After seeing the beautiful places, meeting the beautiful people, and experiencing a culture that stays with you long after you leave, now we are heading back. Our first stop is a quiet place to rest, to pause and take it all in. And then, after that short break, we continued our journey towards Chitral.